My name is Russ Festino. I'm a Senior Developer Evangelist for GrapeCity. A lot of times folks ask me, how did GrapeCity get its name? I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that, because we acquired Data Dynamics, which is where we get the ActiveReports and active analysis components. And we also acquired Farpoint, so we picked up the spread component. But GrapeCity, how's that fit in? Well, it was one of those marketing think tank, type things when they came up with the name for it. And the grape represents growth, and grape on the vine growing, and the city part represents stability. And we've had rock solid products for years that are very stable, and yet we continue to grow and enhance them. So that's kind of the thought process behind that. So I figured I'd get that out right away. So let's go ahead and get up our Visual Studio environment. Let's do a file, a new project here, and we're just going to start out with a regular old Silverlight application. And Mad Expo. I better make it so it's all the correct typing here. M-A-D-E, caps, right? Expo, like that. All right, and we'll do this in C#. You got VB available. How many people are doing C# here? And VB? All right, mixed crowd. Some of you are doing both. So we'll just go ahead and create this solution here with the two projects, right? So how many of you have actually done a Silverlight application? 3, okay, about half of you, okay. So when you create a solution, of course, you got the, for those that haven't, you got the Silverlight app here sitting on top, and then you got the web server, the website on the bottom, right? That's going to serve up the page where the Silverlight application will come through to the client in the browser. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and add in, I've installed the ActiveReports. There is our viewer control. We're going to go ahead and install this up here. And let's go in and change some of the, one of the properties here. We'll just go down and make this thing do a vertical alignment. We'll just stretch it from the top to the bottom. And then we will go ahead and add in our report to the website of the project. And we're going to have to add a reference first, of course. And the reference we're going to go ahead and add in is the ActiveReports web control, so web component. So we'll come down over here, GrapeCity, web component, and put that in there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add some handlers in to our web config file. And this is only the reason we're doing this here is because, let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see it, is that we're going to be using localhost here, right, to run this particular application. If you were doing this like for real in a deployment environment, you'd have this setting basically in IIS, right, and that's just going to be a handler that picks up on the RPX extension so it knows what to do with it, right. And then what we'll do is we're going to head and assign, you'll get the public key token as well, and you can get that out of your Windows assembly directory, right. Just go in there and you can copy that token key value out of there. All right. Next up, then we'll go ahead and add in our report, right, that we're going to end up consuming in our client application. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's go and add in. I love with ActiveReports because it always ends up on top. It's really easy to find those controls. So we're going to add in our RPX file, which is our XML-based file. And this is our report. Now you'll see the report designer actually come up in the window. All right, so when this comes up, next thing we want to do is add a data connection, right, to this report to generate the data. So you can actually take a shortcut here and build the connection string pretty easily. And we'll go ahead and bring up my SQL Server database. I have, I got SQL Server Professional Edition, I think, installed on here, as well as I got the Express School. We'll go ahead and just use the developer version that I have. And we'll use our good old friend, the Northwind database. All right. So now we'll put in our SQL statement. And we're going to go ahead and do a select customers, order by, and let's say country. Just something simple so we can get some, something to look at on our report. All right, so we got that established. Now let's go ahead and bring up the, we'll go ahead and start a group header here. And on the group header, let's go ahead and put in the binding there for the we'll do it by country, I guess. So we'll go to the data field, and there's our drop-down list, right? It pulls in all the fields back that we just did the query for, and we'll go ahead and put country in as the item there. The other one I'm going to set here in the properties, we're going to do a can shrink to true. That will kind of collapse the report a little bit better. We'll also do the same thing in the details portion of the page. Now, there is a report explorer that you can have up on your toolbar, and the way you get that is you right mouse click and you check off Active Report 6, and that'll go ahead and give this guy to you that you can help you build your reports a little bit easier, right? So here we have the fields. Those are all our bound fields. So let's say in the group header, we are going to go ahead and put in maybe the country, right? And make that a little bit bigger. We'll go ahead and give this maybe an Arial black and make it maybe 18 font, something like that. And then on the detail section, what I'm going to do is put in maybe the, say, the company name. All right, so now with that done, basically, if you just hit this preview tab, you can start seeing your report. I mean, that just took a matter of just a few minutes, right? And you're well on your way to getting your first report done. Not too bad, huh? Round of applause, good. Yay, all right, cool stuff. Tough crowd here at 5 o'clock. I appreciate you coming in here because they're giving out beer in the other room. Oh, shouldn't have said that. Oh, no, sorry. If you do sneak out, go grab me one, okay? So that's it. Anyway, that's our report, right? So it's pretty easy to do. You saw drag and drop capabilities, easy to build the string command, and you're well on your way to doing some good reporting here. All right, next thing. Let's go back over to the viewer and do a few things here on the viewer itself now. And so in the viewer, we have, this is the code behind in our viewer, and what we're going to do here is put in a line of code that's basically going to activate that report, right? So here's the report. If you recall, we just kept the default naming on the web server side. And so this is saying go out to that root directory, up one from the bin, and go ahead and load in the active report that we just had. And what it's going to do then is we're going to take our viewer control, which is viewer 1, and you can see there we got the view model off of it. And then under the view model, we'll go ahead and load the document in, which you can start seeing right here. You can see all the settings here, and we'll just execute it. So you just use the new URI syntax, and it's going to be we're going to fire it up here and see what it looks like. Now, this is going to actually bring up the viewer, right, that we talked about, the Silverlight viewer. So this is actually a Silverlight application here, component running on this particular page. Before I drill into that a little bit, I'm just going to do one thing real quick. I'm just going to put active report here, 1 RPX. Now, if you do that, well, you'll actually see this is just plain HTML. All right, that gets brought back. There's no viewing capabilities. There's also a output parameter that you could put on here. So you can put, for example, output format equals PDF. All right, if we do something like that, then now you would have a PDF file, right, that you have here that you can view. So pretty powerful in terms of even just that piece, right alone. There's another format here that is RDF3. Now this you're going to see is going to be a binary format, a lot of gobbledygook, but that's our really compact way of sending this report out over the wire. So very little bandwidth, you know, associated with that, and that's where we're going to actually hook our code up to, is this RDF format.
Is it the handler that you put in the config that allows it to know what let the server know what the RPX is?
That's exactly right. So that web config, that was exactly what we did. There is the .rpx file. All right, so let's go back to the code and change that, modify that to bring in the file as the RDF format, right? So let's go ahead and put that in. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in, just like we saw there in that line before, the RDF3 format. So let's go ahead and rerun this. And now we're going to go ahead and bring up the report. And there's the same thing that we had where, you've got it in your viewer. Now you may be saying, Russ, what are you doing? Man, you got a sample copy there? You work for Grape City. Come on, you got to have the real thing, right? So you see you need the professional edition license for the Silverlight viewer. Okay, so you'll actually, I'm showing you this because you'll actually come across the same thing. It doesn't know you got the license just yet. It's a custom application, right, you're building. So what you're going to do here is you're going to go ahead and add under the tools, there is a Generate ActiveReports Silverlight Runtime License. So all you do is click on that. Now, boom, now you'll see it go into the project file. Right there it is, right? Your license gets generated. So you'll have to do the same thing, when you go to install it, and that'll take care of that. So there it is. Now you got your report up and running, fully functional. Now, the thing we'll take a look at here, and let's take a look at, I mentioned that you can have multiple sources, right, of where you get that report from. So let's go ahead and modify this, and we're going to upload a file from the desktop, let's say. And what we do to this, I'm just going to put a button in here to invoke the dialog. I'm going to get my XAML here straightened out with my margins. So we're going to put this button on the top. And this other one will appear 44 down from that. So that's perfect. And what I'll do is just do a little quick rename. Button open, and then on the content, open report, something like that. Okay, so what we'll do is put some code behind that button now. Then we'll go ahead and bring in the open file dialog, right? So we're going to go ahead and create that. This time we're going to go ahead and create a stream. Let me resolve that. And we'll bring up the dialog, right, to go ahead and read the file, and then it's going to upload it now to the viewer, and it's going to go ahead and run that report, okay? And so let's go ahead and run this, and let's see what this looks like.
From the local file system?
This is from the local file system, exactly right. So many times you might have, once you start using ActiveReports, you may have these files sitting on somebody's local machine. Maybe they got to run one report like every day, and you just say, okay, here's your report. You run this whenever you need it. Now they don't have to mess around putting it up on a website or whatever. You can still have a Silverlight viewer for it. So pretty common need. And so what happened to my button though? Oh, there it is right here. So open report. And here I've got some, let's go with maybe this catalog RDF file, and there it is. Now it's, runs that particular report, and you can see right there scrolling through it, and there's the entire report. So really about a half a dozen or so lines of code, and you got the ability now to upload that from a different location. You do the same type of thing if you're loading it in maybe from a web service or from an ASPX page. You got that capability. Okay. Questions so far? All right, good.
Now, I do have one question.
Yeah.
When you were serving the page up from the server, how would you define the data source for the report? Well, for example, when you designed the report, you were doing it presumably from a test database that you had as a developer. Once you actually deployed it, you probably want to give them a different connection string or something for your report.
Right.
I'm just wondering, since it's coming from the server, how would you override that so that they were getting data from their own database instead of from your test database?
Okay, so the question is, when I go ahead and design this, right, I've got a certain, like a test database I'm using. When I go to deploy in production, I want to go ahead and modify the source. And that actually, well, the way I would do that, or at least start to do that, would be to bring up the properties, right, for this particular report, and then look at the data source right here. And you can go ahead and change the connection string right up there, just the way we did before. So you'd point it to your, you hit the build button, point it to your production database, and you would have it in there. So let's go back out to the deck and take a look at the actual toolbar, right? So we're going to take a look here now at what you actually get here in the viewer control itself to help make it easy to browse and navigate through your report and find stuff. So you can see we got the table of contents, we got all thumbnails, the printer support, search, zoom, navigation, and most importantly, you can add your own customizations. All right, so on the left here, if you have a table of contents, now you can add these, programmatically in your code to build these table of contents on the fly. For example, here we can do a one for each country, right? You can go ahead and put that in the table of contents. Also, thumbnail support, right? So there's the actual page thumbnails that come up. Printer support, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but there is the native Silverlight printing capabilities, right? Coming up right there, right out of the box. The zoom out, right? Zoom out, zoom in. So you can go back 1 to 1 here. The search, though, right here, we can go to, I don't know, let's look for something here. Imports, right? And I'll bring it, right down to that. So very easy to find stuff in there as well. And this is a slider for the zooming. And then also you've got, you can just fit it to the page, fit to the whole page. Single view. This is kind of nice with the kind of like a Word document now, looks like, right, with the scroll bar as well. And then this is kind of nice too. If you just want to go directly to a page, you can just enter it right in there, and you can go back to the one you're on with the back button with 4. So pretty nice navigation, all in all, throughout the entire viewer. Very, very, our customers really like this quite a bit.
The resize that you did to print, to be able to fit it in one page. So if you had like a page and a quarter, where normally would have printed 4 pages and then another 4 pages with the 1/4 of the page on the, that belongs to the right, will that resize it so that it does fit into the one?
No. The question is, to fit the page, does that reduce the entire size of the report? No, it's really only for the viewer. So you can see the whole page in the viewer at once, is what that means. Yeah. So here you can see the whole Finland. If I had it, like bumped up like that, you don't see the whole page. But if you want to take a look at the whole page at once, then you can go ahead and hit that, and it'll go ahead and fit that right in. You can see the whole thing at once. That's all it does. Okay, good question. So the modification that you can do now with that is basically, what that viewer is? It's basically just a XAML file. It's a template. That's all it is. So you can go in there, and if you want to go ahead and modify the look and feel of that, you can. There are also some predefined templates that you can go ahead and use. So let me show you this. So we'll go ahead and bring in a predefined template. So we've got Office, Olive Green, Vista Aero, Windows Classic, for the classic folks out there. We'll go ahead and put in the default Silverlight Viewer template, and I'll actually show you how to make modifications to that, and just kind of give you an idea. Also, now in order to use this particular template, we need to add the resource in, just like you would any XAML template or control. And so let's go ahead and put that into our code here. And it's just a user control resource, right? So there's our resource dictionary, and we're going to point it to that XAML file that we just pulled in, so it gets all the styles from it. And in the XAML itself, let's see how we can go ahead and modify that. So here we have the XAML file, and you can see, all the different style settings, different pieces of that layout in its entirety. And let's go ahead and find, maybe we want to modify that header piece in the sidebar implementation. All right, and so here is the header that we have currently right here. So let's just replace that with, my cool header. And go ahead and fire this up, and there it is, my cool header. All right, so you can start to get a feel for how you can go ahead and modify these things yourself. If you got somebody that's really artistically inclined, who knows, maybe you can make a Metro kind of design, right? Have it look like a Phone 7 or something like that, right, in your viewer, and use it for that. So some good things there, especially if you got a good graphic artist or something in house that uses knows how to use expression blend. You can go and blend and really make a really snazzy template, and use that as far as your viewer goes. So really full customability and customizing to your needs is really the bottom line there. All right, any questions on that one?
So the viewer user interface then is all XAML?
Yes, sir.
And then I guess the rendering part is in your your DLL assembly?
The rendering can be done through Silverlight, right? Silverlight renders that the XAML. It's a beautiful thing. It's very nice. So yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised to see that. You know, when I was going through this, like, yes, that's great, man. Totally customizable. It's perfect. All right, now let's get to some really cool stuff, which is the printing support, and I'll talk about this as well. So there's printing support with an extra print to PDF option, and this is really important that you have this as a takeaway from this session, because if you were to just implement the Silverlight API printing, you certainly can do it, and like I mentioned, it is very fat. It really will consume your spool space up pretty quickly when you start doing some serious reporting, okay? Now, let's go ahead and show you this, how this is done. All right, so we have our config file. I'm going to go into the config file here once again. I'm going to uncomment a couple lines that I have in here, which will pick up a few more handlers. One is for the ActiveReports and one's for the RDF item, and we're going to need that when we go ahead and do our printing. And so to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is go back into the page here for the code behind in our Silverlight project. And we are going to add in one line of code that's going to give us our PDF support. And right here it is. Now, before I run this, I want to show you a before and after effect. So I'm just going to comment that out for a second. And I'm going to run this. And we're going to print something. We're going to go bring up, this is the native print dialog you would see as part of the Silverlight printing support. And we're just going to go to an XPX document so you can see the size differences between these two. So let's go out to our Mad Expo, and this one I can tell you is going to be larger, so we're going to say larger XPS file, and it's going to write it out there. And keep in mind, this is 4 pages, right? This is right now. This is not a huge report, and you saw, number one, the spooling time it took to do that, and you'll see the space and the size difference is quite considerable. So let's go ahead now and, I just wanted to show you cannot change the code while you are running. All right. Now we got the print PDF set property equal to true on the viewer. And just by doing that, let's go ahead and see what happens now when we do our print. Well, the first thing we'll notice is we get a different printer dialog. We get one that's more associated with PDF printing. So now you can see, you know, the size over here and the different things you might be used to fit in printable area, right, with PDF printing. So it's a different dialog. We'll go ahead and print out once again to the document writer. Okay, here we have the smaller file. And bring these up once again. And there's a Mad Expo, so now you can see the differences here in the size column, really quite substantial, right? There is the 3700 for the large one, and the smaller one just 84K. That's a huge improvement, right? So that'll reduce significantly your spool size and your printer activity.
So by setting that property print PDF equal to true, at that point it doesn't actually print to the printer, it prints to a file. So
well, no, the part that printed to the file was the XPS option I printed. If I selected a printer there, it would have gone to the printer. I just printed it to that file because I don't have a printer set up here, and I just wanted to demonstrate the size of the file is hugely different, you know, different between the two options.
You could create a PDF document yourself in Notepad if you mark it up right. It's a markup language.
Markup language, yeah.
Yeah. So what he's got there is a PDF document, and the question was whether he could save that PDF document as a PDF, because it is. It's the PDF does create a smaller, you know, a smaller presentation.
Right.
It's more.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the beauties of ActiveReports. It saves it as PDF, and I was just showing the PDF support for the printer as well, you know, so good stuff. Not bad, huh? All right, now if you were to, expand your app and go worldwide, let me just show you localization real quick and see how that works. And it's actually pretty simple. And I'm going to do is unload this project. And the reason I'm going to unload it is so that I could edit the project file basically to put the additional culture in. is where I'm going with this. So let's go ahead and unload this. Go to edit the project file. You could do it this way. You can unload it and edit, or you can just go in Notepad or something and edit that project file outside of Visual Studio. The one you want to go to is the supported cultures right here. So for example, we can go JA.jp. And there are 4 of these supported right out of the box. You can actually customize that to any language that you want. But I think we got Japanese, Chinese, and Russian, right there. You just all you got to do is this, basically, and you're ready to go. So now we'll save that, close this up, reload the project in, and then we'll just change the culture programmatically to demonstrate like if someone was using the Japanese culture, and we'll go ahead and put that in to our current UI culture, and we'll go ahead and load up that same culture, right, for Japan. So now if I go ahead and fire this up, and you hover over the toolbar on the report, sure enough, there you see the Japanese tags. Pretty easy, huh? Not bad. All built right in as well. All right. Well, I'm having fun here. Okay. Well, we're saving the best topic for last, in my opinion. I like to build things to a crescendo, in my seminars I do, and that's out of browser support, right? So here you have it. This is the settings that you see here. What you do is bring up the project settings. Has anybody here done an outer browser application? So it's just straightforward, just like you normally do it, right? You bring up the properties, you just check off the enable running application out of browser, and boom, you got yourself an outer browser application. And this is an example of a really great sample app. Actually, we include with the SDK for out of browser support. And the reason it's good, it goes into a lot of the things we talked about here in terms of showing the table of contents or not, customizing your viewer, putting a splitter in, thumbnail tab, show that or not, and it shows you the code that you would use to provide those different options, right, or look and feel to your app, as well as the default application. So rather than look at a PowerPoint, let's go ahead and just bring this up. And here we have the Silverlight Viewer application. And now you can see here, I can remove this app or run it. Let me show you something here first. I'm going to bring up the control panel, bring up the programs and features. We'll do a sorted, it's already sorted on date. So now if I go ahead and fire this up and come back over to the control panel and do a little a refresh here, there you see the Silverlight app, right? So it's installed as an app on your desktop. And if you go to uninstall or remove the application, removes it just like you would in a desktop app, and it goes away over here on your program list, right? It's not there. So it actually is a very cool thing, out of browser applications. And then you can see here, you can just go ahead and use, maybe you want to look at Russian, for example, here, view the report. And now your control, hovering over the top is all in Russian. And all the code is included in that sample application. So where is the sample application, and where is the documentation, right? So first thing to point you to is right here, right when you install the application under the GrapeCity folder, here is the ActiveReports folder along with the samples, and down under the professional folder, this is where you have that outer browser application I just showed you. On the website, or even on the local installed documentation, you have several different walkthroughs to get you started with. And what I did here was I started out with the GC PowerTools, right? That's our main site for all of our components. If you come down under the support column, that's where we have all of our forums. And a lot of good content out in the forums, by the way. And now take a look at the documentation. And I kind of like just using the online version. It's always easy to find. It's got the latest and greatest. Not to say that we don't, update our documentation, but it's probably just the ease of access is the thing I like about it the best. And there you have it. There's all of our doc. And the thing that I loved the most was the, like I said, the walkthroughs. So if you go down to the walkthroughs, come down over here, there's a Silverlight Viewer walkthrough right there. So you can go step by step and you'll have this done in a matter of no time, and you'll be able to start using your app in the Silverlight Viewer. All right. And how about that? Was that all right? Hey, hey. Check out gbtv.gcpowertools.com. It's your online source for developer news. Just follow us on Twitter and Facebook.